Sports Clash Radio with your hosts, Chad and JC Martin.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Sports Clash Radio with your host, Chad, JC Martin. We're talking NFL. It's week 13 already, and a lot of crazy things have gone on. Well, we say that every time. It really haven't been crazy, but unexpected maybe be a better word. I mean, just when you think you've got the teams figured out what they're going to do, they end up surprising you. Like with our picks last week, everything I had was dead on up until the late games. And then the wheels kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. But the Patriots, wasn't Tom Brady's best game, but Tom Brady still showed you why he's Tom Brady. Because even on his worst day, he's still probably better than anybody else out there. It's
Absolutely.
just amazing to watch and just watch what he does. That's what makes New England scary. The Seahawks, who we just knew were dominating and thought they may, even though the Cowboys were 10-1, they could be one of the best teams in the NFC. And they're probably still one of the best teams in the NFC. But they suffered a huge setback last week. Unexpected. I don't know how many people actually seriously picked them to lose last week, but they were shocked, to say the least, when that happened. But we're going to get into this, and we're going to start off with Thursday night game. Cowboys and Vikings. The Cowboys can actually clinch a playoff spot this week. They have to beat Minnesota Thursday night, and then one or two things has to happen. Well, I mean, one thing has to happen. Either Washington loses or Tampa Bay loses. Doesn't matter if they both lose or not, but one of them has to lose for Dallas to clinch a playoff spot.
Spoiler alert, I have one of those teams winning, but I have the other one losing.
There you go. So
I have Dallas clinching that spot. That's basically what I'm saying.
Well, we're going to get down to that here in just a minute. So Cowboys, Vikings.
I'm taking the boys on the road. Minnesota's offense has been just so obscenely flat outside of that Cardinals game several weeks ago, which even then it wasn't prolific by any means. They had a pick six, they had a kickoff return by Cordell Patterson, who showed you why he's one of the most dangerous punt returners in the league. But their offense doesn't scare you, which is good for the Cowboys defense.
Exactly.
Because as we talked, if you watched the games last Thursday on Thanksgiving, you saw that Washington Redskins offense, they blew up all over the Cowboys, gave up 500 yards, but the Cowboys offense was on point.
Exactly.
Whenever they had to make the play, they made the play.
Between the 20s, the Cowboys are going to let you have between the 20s.
Absolutely.
But when you get to the red zone area,
that's where they shut you down.
Exactly.
Now, that faltered towards the end of that game against the Redskins, but for the first three quarters, that was true.
Yeah, but the Cowboys had built such a lead, it didn't matter.
But this Vikings offense is not the Redskins offense. The Redskins offense is night and day better. I'm taking the Cowboys on the road in Minnesota.
I am too, because the key for Minnesota is going to be not to let the Cowboys jump out early. Because if that happens, if the Cowboys jump out early, the game's over. Minnesota does not have the firepower on offense, just like you were talking about, to play point catch up with the Dallas Cowboys. Right. It's not going to happen.
And Minnesota has a really, really good defense, as we know. But the problem is the Cowboys just have so many weapons on offense. One of them is going to be available as an option.
Exactly.
Whether it's Cole, whether it's Terrence, whether it's Dez, whether it's Jason Witten, Ezekiel Elliott, even Gavin Escobar has had a couple of big-time catches in these last couple of games since Jeff Swaim's been out. Now, they're not going to depend on Gavin Escobar. Exactly. They're not going to throw to him routinely.
The point is, they will use him.
They will use him.
Lucky Whitehead, they'll do that jet sweep and actually give it to him.
Which I thought was a brilliant move to start off that game against the Redskins, because no one's expecting that first play.
That's right.
And so bringing Lucky Whitehead in the sweep, picked up several yards on that very first play of the game against the Redskins on the first drive. It's a good way to get that drive going with some momentum, and it ultimately paid off with a touchdown.
And Minnesota's going to have to game plan for all of that. Because it's just what are you going to do? To me, Ezekiel Elliott is the MVP of this offense just because that sucker is so dynamic in everything that he does. He can run, he can catch, he pass blocks with the best of them. Not afraid to put himself in there. So defenses have to account for him, and they're going to.
And conversely, you have Dak Prescott, and of course early on, everyone was like, well, he's a good game manager.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't torching defenses.
No.
He didn't even throw a touchdown in his first two games. But what we've seen is he doesn't make mistakes. He can go off. Up until the Redskins game, he had thrown for over 300 yards in the last two games. One against the top-rated defense in the NFL in Baltimore. So Dak can do it. And then when he runs, when he scrambles, he made some nifty moves against the Redskins. Picked up a huge first down on that final drive they scored on, which proved to be the one that really won the game for him. Of course, he took that slide and got the late helmet-to-helmet hit from Dante Hittner, a.k.a. Whitner.
Yeah.
But, and that stiff arm, that vicious stiff arm that he threw out. So, this offense for the Cowboys is just utterly dynamic. They're not going to get gaudy yardage numbers, but that's because they're dominating time of possession. They're doing slow, methodical, championship-winning drives.
Yeah, because like you said, you can't cover everybody. So who do you cover? And if you cover two guys, you try to double cover Dez. Well, Beasley's going to be open. Terrence Williams is going to be open. Bryce Butler, Jason Witten, who in 14 years is still a beast out there, who just owns the tight end option route. Still knows exactly where to sit. Not a fast guy, but he's clever and knows where he needs to be. You can't stop all these guys.
What blows my mind with Witten is, you said it, 14 years in this league, he's missed one game ever.
That's right. And that was his first season?
Yep.
When he broke his jaw and played the next week?
This man lacerated his spine about 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Didn't miss a game.
Well, spleen.
Or a spleen. Lacerated spleen.
Still, that's not something you should come back from immediately.
No. Like, you should miss time with that, logically.
And he didn't. I mean, that was impressive. On to the next one. We got Chiefs and Falcons.
Man. This one's tough in the sense you never know what you're going to get with this Chiefs offense. The Chiefs offense looked really good. They looked bad at times against the Broncos, but also looked great at times against the Broncos. Tyreek Hill, of course, he scored a rushing touchdown. He scored a receiving touchdown. And he had I think it was a kickoff return or a punt return for a touchdown. So they have a dynamic playmaker, that they can put in various spots, kind of like a Lucky Whitehead. He's not a number 1 or a number 2 receiver, but he can do those same type things. The Falcons defense, they're now they're not a good defense. They're in a worse spot now. One of their top corners is out for the year, but that Falcons offense is absolutely frightening. And man, the thing that trips me up is that the Chiefs secondary is so good, but they haven't played all that well this year.
Exactly.
They gave up a ton of yardage to Emmanuel Sanders last week. They shut down Demaryius Thomas, but gave up a metric ton worth of yardage against Emmanuel Sanders. But at the end of the day, I think Matt Ryan over Alex Smith, I'll take that. Julio Jones over maybe a returning Jeremy Maclin this week, I'll take Julio. And then and Tevin Coleman's back now.
Exactly.
So that backfield of Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, I'm taking the Falcons at home over the Chiefs.
Yeah, same here. Lions and Saints. Now, a few weeks ago, I would have picked the Lions in this game, hands down, but the resurging Saints, man, their offense, they have found it.
Well, that's the thing for both of these teams. They're both high-octane offenses.
Yeah.
They're going to air the ball out because neither of them can really run that well. Tim Hightower's had his moments this year. Mark Ingram's had his moments this year and last year. But the precipice of both of these offenses rely on their quarterbacks.
Exactly.
It's going to be that's how all games are built. This quarterback versus this quarterback. Well, this week it truly is going to be Matt Stafford versus Drew Brees. And I know that Matt Stafford has played well, especially early on in the season, but his last 6 games have been really average.
Exactly.
Incredibly average. And the Saints' defense is a little bit better than what we thought it was going to be coming into this year. So I'm taking Drew Brees and all of his 80,000 weapons he has in the Superdome.
I agree. If you'd have said that Brandon Cook wasn't going to get even one fantasy point last week and the Saints win, I'd have called you a liar. But it just shows how many weapons they do have, and it's scary. Rams and Patriots, do we even have to talk about this?
You just don't ever pick against Tom Brady. Yes, he's going to lose at some point, but it's never wise to pick against him.
I mean, they did kick Eric Dixon off the sideline in L.A., so, maybe that'll help. I don't think so.
It's not.
The problem is he was
Fisher's
on
just
point.
trying to lose his job.
Yeah, so he's just taking another step towards doing that.
Did you hear Jeff Fisher's comments today?
No, I wanted those ones yesterday.
They asked him about what he was going to do to stop, James White and Deion Lewis.
Yeah.
And he was like, who? And he was legitimately confused. He doesn't even know the running backs for the team he's playing this week. And the team that he's playing this week is that team that can burn you in infinite ways.
That's right.
Like, even when... What blows my mind is Bill Belichick, the way that he has this offense set up with Josh McDaniels, his offensive coordinator, is that they can plug and play anybody in this offense, and they're a threat. That particular person is a threat.
When you hear comments like that, you wonder, why are you just drug testing the players? What about some of these coaches? Because it sounds like some of them may need it. If you're making a comment like that, and you're that out of touch, something's wrong.
Right.
He must be trying to get.
So, I mean, Jeff Fisher is not going to be in Los Angeles after this year. There's just no way, but like I said, take New England. At New England.
Yeah.
There's no chance for the Rams.
Exactly. Broncos, Jaguars.
Broncos, they're coming off that bad loss to the Chiefs last week. And, of course, the big question was, if Benny Fowler doesn't score that touchdown, he had that long play there with just a few minutes left in the game. If he had just gone down, the Chiefs were either out of timeouts or about to be out of timeouts. If he goes down, they pick up another first down, they won that game. Yeah. They win it. They don't have to go to overtime. They don't kick that field goal. Chiefs don't kick that field goal. They don't miss a 62-yarder.
Exactly.
Which gave the Chiefs great field position for the Chiefs to go back down there and kick the game winner. So the Broncos are going to be a little upset with themselves. And, of course, Blake Bortles has been absolute trash this year for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Allen Robinson, their best receiver, has been covered up, which has actually increased the usage of Allen Hurns and Marquise Lee, which has been good for those two young players. But the Jaguars are a mess. And
yes, they are.
I'm taking the defending world champions.
Texans and Packers.
Packers had a good win against the Eagles.
A great win against the Eagles.
That was one that they needed badly. And and Aaron Rodgers looked good. He and Devontae Adams were on point, especially in those first two drives.
Yep.
Devontae Adams caught 2 touchdowns. At some point, they've got to get Randall Cobb going because they don't have a running game. But the Texans, although they're really good against the pass, they can't stop the run this year. So the Packers could try some different stuff to just kind of switch things up. But at the end of the day, it's Brock Osweiler versus Aaron Rodgers.
That's right.
And you're always going to take Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I won't believe in the Texans until Tony Romo gets there next year. So that's not going to happen because they owe way too much money to Brock Osweiler. But I mean, still, that shows you how little faith I have in the Texans right now. So Packers definitely. Eagles, Bengals.
The Bengals are a mess. Of course, Giovanni Bernard's done. Yeah. AJ Green may return before the end of the season, but he won't be there this week. Jordan Matthews is really hitting his stride. Carson Wentz looked pretty good in that loss to the Packers.
Yep.
The Eagles are going to try to get that bad taste out of their mouth, and the Bengals defense just isn't playing up to snuff. Like, this was a really good defense last year. They didn't lose that many pieces from it at all. So I got to go with Philly on this one on the road.
Me too. Dolphins and Ravens. This could be a really good game.
This could. Tannehill's hitting his stride at the perfect time. Sorry, everybody. My throat's really sore. But Devontae Parker has really come out of nowhere this last few weeks. Jarvis Landry's kind of... He's hit or miss week in and week out.
Yeah.
But Devontae Parker has kind of emerged, which has been good as teams are game planning for Jarvis Landry. Devontae Parker's emerging. He's taking on more responsibility and a bigger role. It frees up Jay Ajayi in some ways, even though teams are locking in on him too. They're not giving up rushing yards. The kid can still catch out of the backfield.
That's right.
And so he's making plays. Ryan Tannehill's probably playing the best stretch of football that he has in his entire pro career. Yes, the Ravens' defense is great, but their offense is atrocious. Mike Wallace is boom or bust on his plays. They're trying to get the ball to Mike Wallace on quick, short slants or something across the middle and just let him use his speed to make plays.
Exactly.
Steve Smith, he can go out there and catch 13 passes, but he's going to have 13 passes for all of 60 yards. And, of course, we know that Steve Smith's tough, and he has that ability to get into defenders' heads. But I think this Miami defense right now they're playing great football. Kiko Alonso is looking like the Kiko Alonso that we got used to in Buffalo, not the Kiko Alonso that we saw in Philadelphia.
Exactly.
And Ndamukong Suh is playing well. This defense has all the pieces to be really frightening. I think they add to that momentum that they're building this week. They go on the road to Baltimore, beat the Ravens.
Completely agree there. In America's stinker game of the week, 49ers, Bears.
This is the game to see who wants the second pick in the draft.
Exactly.
So I think the Bears have more talent.
But I think the 49ers offense has actually been moving up and down the field here lately.
And hey, hats off to Colin Kaepernick for that. I don't care what your political views are, if you agree or disagree with him. I'm talking strictly on the field. Colin Kaepernick has looked pretty good these last few weeks. I mean, even against Miami last week, I think he had almost 100 rushing yards.
Well, yeah, he did have 100
rushing yards. 100 rushing yards.
I mean, he's a good fit for Chip Kelly's
Right,
offense.
he was perfect, and they should have done this earlier in the year and let this thing build up some steam. But, of course, they don't have the talent in place for this team to be successful. I think the Bears, conversely, do have the talent. They just can't get it put together for whatever reason. So I'm going to roll with the Bears at home.
I'm going to take 49ers on the road to pick up a win here. I don't know why. That sounds like a good idea to me, but I'm certainly not a fan. But
this is a pick 'em.
Go either way.
Yeah, this is a straight pick 'em.
Yeah, exactly. Bills, Raiders. This game could be a dang fight.
The Raiders.
These are two physical football teams. I'm just not going against the Raiders right now.
I'm taking the silver and black attack all day.
I mean, LeSean McCoy, Shady just cut up last week. Had a huge week, but Raiders.
Which he could very well do again this week because the Raiders' run defense is suspect.
Yep.
But they aren't letting people get too many pass yards now. They did give up a bunch of passing yards and rushing yards to the Panthers last week. But I think that's the thing about Derek Carr, what we're seeing from him. I mean, he's a young kid still trying to prove himself. But this kid's got guts. He's got intestinal fortitude, and he's willing to grind out wins. They may be ugly.
Khalil Mack on the other side on that defense, though. Oh my God, that beast!
You know, these wins may be ugly, but at the end of the day, they're still wins, and that's what you need to keep. Even if I like the idea that they're winning dogfights more than they're blowing teams out, because that keeps them honest.
Exactly.
They're not taking anything for granted right now. You know, they have the weapons in Latavius Murray and Jalen Richard and Amari Cooper, Jalen Richard, Latavius Murray, Michael Crabtree. I like the young safety that they drafted this year, Carl Joseph. Of course, you mentioned Khalil Mack. He was just a monster. It doesn't matter if you play him at defensive end or you play him at linebacker. The dude is dynamic.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, we could see potentially the return. I'm not sure if Alden Smith's back. But I think he could be returning this week. Don't quote me on that. I'm not too sure. But I think this Raiders team is just going to be too much for the Bills to handle right now.
Yeah, I think so too. Giants and Steelers. Now, the Giants haven't really been talked about a lot because they've been overshadowed by the Cowboys all season because of what's going on. But the Giants are 8-3.
They are.
So it's not like they've won 5 straight.
They gave Dallas their one loss.
They did. So they are on a roll right now. The Steelers have to have a win if they're wanting to keep pace and keep this thing going. Right.
And it's going to, like, you have Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, which you know at any given moment they can make a huge play happen. The Steelers are going to have to play Dallas Cowboy type football.
That's right.
They're going to have to own the time of possession because their defense isn't going to make stops.
No.
Especially not against this high-powered Giants offense. Steelers' defense isn't going to make stops, so they need a consistent running game with Le'Veon Bell, or even if you do short passes, kind of like the Lions do, like that's their running game, short passes to the running backs. They can do something like that. Even though it's not the smart choice, I'm going to take the Steelers home. I think this is that game that they really try to separate themselves in that division race in the AFC North.
I think so. And with Big Ben getting healthier and healthier, he looked a lot sharper last week, and every week he's getting back to his old form. I believe they pull off an upset. And right now, this has to be looked at as an upset if they beat the Giants.
Oh, without a doubt.
It is. So I'm going to go with the Steelers this week as my upset pick. Next, we got Redskins and Cardinals. Redskins coming off of putting 500 points up against, 505 yards up
500
against
points?
Dallas.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was
Just
like,
call the game.
That's it. But they put up a lot of yards against Dallas. Now, the difference is that Dallas can score, the Cardinals cannot.
Right.
So
Unless your name's David Johnson.
Exactly.
And then you can do whatever you want.
And without Matthews back there for Arizona, I've got Redskins going to Arizona and picking up the win here.
Oh, yeah, I'm in utter agreement. The best part of the Cardinals right now is on offense, David Johnson, on defense, Patrick Peterson. But you can't play Patrick Peterson. You don't have 5 Patrick Petersons out there. You got one.
That's right.
Now, we don't know if the Redskins are going to have Jordan Reed or not, even though he came back from that injury that he suffered in the Dallas game, came back later in the second half, played and absolutely tore it up after that.
He did.
With one shoulder, tore it up. But you still have Jamison Crowder you got to atone for. Pierre Garçon, even though he's not a big, strong guy, he's not a fast, flashy guy, he's just a good quality possession receiver.
Yep.
And then Deshaun Jackson can always go off and take the top off of the defense. So I think it's really hard to pick against the Redskins right now.
Yeah, I do too. Next up, we have Buccaneers, Chargers. The Bucs are kind of a surprising team. And I'm not too sure that this is a hard game for me to pick also. Because the Chargers, Melvin Gordon is a beast.
And having an amazing season.
An amazing season. And you would think, as good as he's been running, they would have a much better record than they do.
Right, but their defense can't stop a nosebleed.
They can't. And that's
but their secondary is really good, which is what blows my mind. Their secondary is really strong. Of course, we've seen Joey Bosa after missing the first few games due to his whole contract BS. But dude's a phenom.
Oh, yeah.
He's an absolute beast. But like you said, Melvin Gordon's having that wonderful... It comes down... And, of course, they've suffered injuries to the receivers.
Yes.
Not having Keenan Allen go down in Game 1 after he went out in Game 2 last year.
Yep.
And was out for the year. He's out for the year again this year. Of course, you got to rely on the veteran Antonio Gates. But it's Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers is an enigma.
He is.
This guy's in his 13th season.
Yep.
He's that weird, underrated yet overrated quarterback.
Exactly.
He's underrated in the sense that people don't appreciate how good this dude really is. But he's overrated in the sense that sometimes he does get too much praise and people will try to throw him into these certain categories when he hasn't really... he's got yards. But he's been a starter for 13 years.
Exactly.
He's got a bunch of touchdowns in his career, but he's been a starter for 13 years. Now he has a bunch of interceptions. You can put that in there as being a quarterback for 13 years. Brett Favre holds the record for most interceptions of all time. Yeah. He played for 20 years.
Exactly.
But Phillip Rivers, a lot of those interceptions, you go back and you look at that Dolphins game. If he doesn't throw 4 interceptions, especially there in the fourth quarter, he gave the Dolphins that game.
Yep.
The Chargers had that thing wrapped up. And the Buccaneers, conversely, yes, they have a winning record right now. And Mike Evans he's proven over the last few weeks against great secondaries that he doesn't care who you put on him. There is not a good matchup in this league for Mike Evans.
That's right.
Mike Evans will go up above you. He will go around you. He will outrun you. He's just big. He's big. He's long. He's strong. So Mike Evans is a wonderful weapon for the Buccaneers to have. I think the Buccaneers, though, don't have enough weapons in this game, especially considering they're going all the way across the country. I'm going to take the Chargers, what hurts their record right now is the fact that they dropped so many close games early on in the season.
Yeah.
You look at those first 4 weeks of the season, they went 1-3, and they shouldn't have.
That's right.
They probably should have been 3-1, if anything. So I'm going to go with the Chargers at home. They're better than advertised.
I'm going to go Buccaneers on the road. I really don't know why. I agree with Mike Evans, but they show a lot of spunk, and right now the Chargers is kind of like you said, the whole team's an enigma to me right now, and how they play and which Charger team is going to show up. Is it the Jekyll team or is it the Hyde team? Which one is it going to be this week? So I'm just gonna throw my hat in with the Bucs this week and see if they can pull it off. They're coming off a high after that win last week. I mean, and nobody picked them to win that game against the Seahawks, and they pulled it out.
That begs the question, though: will they ride that wave of momentum, or will they have that big emotional hangover?
Well, there's only two ways it goes. I'm going with the riding the momentum on this one.
I'm going with
Surf's
the
up. We'll go see what happens. Speaking of Seahawks, Panthers go to Seattle. And I think, honestly, what you're going to see here is Seattle's defense is going to beat up Cam Newton enough that he's going to be off his game. I don't see how Carolina gets out there with a win.
Well, I agree that Seattle wins. Seattle's definitely going to play angry.
Yep.
After losing a game they should have won last week.
Especially only having a baseball score.
But the Panthers found themselves contending against a really awesome team in the Raiders last week.
Yeah,
in Oakland.
They sure did.
Went to Oakland and were competing. Cam Newton was firing on all cylinders. Jonathan Stewart was running like a man possessed. I think these Panthers are finally starting to hit their stride. It's just too little too late.
Yeah, and I think what we saw at the end of the game...
It took far too long for them to get going this year. But I think this is going to be a pretty good game. It's going to be exciting.
I think it'd be a great game. It's a great Sunday night game. And the way the Sunday night games have been going this year, it promises to be be pretty awesome.
To me, that is the key factor in this game. That it's a Sunday night game. It's prime time. If we know anything about Seattle's home environment, you put them in prime time, those fans get loud. They get deafeningly loud. They get rowdy. They get fired up. And the Seahawks feed off of that. Like you said, I'm taking the Seattle to win this game.
Too. And then Monday night, a game probably nobody will watch except for people in these two cities right here. Maybe some of you will, but you got the Colts and the Jets. Andrew Luck will be back.
Really?
I believe so. So I'm just going to go with the Colts. I mean, you can make a case for either team right here. I mean, so you go with the home team, you go with Indy. So I'm just going to pick Indianapolis because I like their uniforms.
If Andrew Luck plays, I'm taking the Colts. No, that's because he finds ways to get the ball to both T.Y. Hilton and Dante Moncrief.
Exactly.
Now, conversely, if the Jets, the problem I've noticed with the Jets this year is that they get Matt Forte going early in games.
Mm-hmm.
They get him carries, they get him yards. They might even get him a touchdown, give him a couple receptions. But in the second half, they always abandon him. Even though he's got the hot hand, then they start feeding Bilal Powell, and they get nowhere, and their offense stalls out.
Exactly.
If they get Matt Forte going, and they stay with him, I think the Jets are going to grind this game out. It's going to be an ugly game.
Yeah,
it's not going to be pretty to watch. I think it'll be a low-scoring affair. Like, the Jets could get out of this 17-13 or 17-14, something like that. But like I said, if Andrew Luck's starting and playing, I'll take the Colts on the road.
Same here. All right, guys, we appreciate you tuning in this week. It's going to be a fun weekend of sports in general. College football's kicking off. Championship weekend this weekend. Lots happening this weekend. Thank you for following us and sharing us and all that good stuff. You can follow us on patreon.com/sportsclash. At Facebook at Sports Clash Radio, Twitter Sports Clash Rad, and SoundCloud, which is our new home of our podcast, at Sports Clash Radio. Follow us, like us, tune into our station, give us some love there. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.